All right, we're going to be back looking at the Moken 12.5 and the new Bixpy power pole plate. And as you can see, this was the original plate. I mean, it worked perfectly fine, made out of, some thick starboard. And, it worked great. Yak Gadget actually made this for Bixpy. And here's the new one. It's all aluminum. And of course it's light, which this other one, it was light too, but this one is light. I can show you on the back of at least the Moken 12.5, you're going to need some type of plate back here. The kayak doesn't already come with some type of power pole pattern, so with this plate here, Yak Gadget actually sells this, and it's their Y plate. Of course, with this one, it's a custom made one that I have the quick stop anchor on as well. But this is the Yak Gadget plate, it's a Y plate. This is actually made for the FeelFree lure, the 11.5. It will fit the Moken 12.5, and of course JT with Yak Gadget. That he sells a good amount of other power pole type plates for different kayaks. So I would recommend checking them out. You're going to need something like that if you want to utilize the Bixby power pole plate on the back of your FeelFree. And the only reason I have it here is because I still want rudder control. If I'm fishing in the river, or just in general for positioning, if I'm not using the motor, I can store the motor out of the way and use the rudder. So that's why I go with the power pole pattern and this plate. And let's go ahead and get into the install. It's not going to be too long. I've already got the plate mounted to the kayak. Don't really need to show that, but I'll show you how to actually mount the power pole portion and either the pole steer or the locking mechanism for the Bixpy. So let's get into it. So with your kit from Bixpy, you're going to get this bag full of all of the hardware that you need for mounting the power pole plate onto your kayak. So let me get everything out of the bag. And of course I don't have well, here, I'll bring it over here. This is also what you get with the kayak itself. It's just where the Bixpy mounts up, and we'll get to that as at least the power pole portion is mounted. So here's all the hardware that you get. You get some spacers for, I know some of your Hobie kayaks will require a lot of the spacers. We're not going to need it here in this case, but if you do, it's nice that Bixpy already gives you that. So essentially this is what you're going to need. You've got a bolt. There isn't lock nuts in here, but if you wanted to, you could always swap it out. And then of course a washer. So just know, if you go this route with the Yak Gadget plate and the Bixpy power pole, the bolts that come with the power pole mount are not long enough to go through the mount and the Yak Gadget plate itself. So you're going to have to find longer bolts to be able to, put it through there and made everything up. But in my case, I do have the original bolts that came with the power pole pattern plate that I had from Bixpy. So I'm using that here. And essentially all that is a T-nut. And I'm not going to use the hand tightened nuts that come with it. So all I'm doing is fishing it up through the bottom or the top. Really, it doesn't matter. For these on the inside, I had to go from the top and screw it down. But just placing it there, putting a washer down, and then tightening this bolt on top, the nut on top of it. So essentially I'm going to do that for all four of those. Let's see, let me take this one off. And let me see if I can fish this one back up through here. No, see, that one's not going to work just like the other one. So I'll show you what I'll do there. Just come through the top. Feel for that screw to come through. And after it comes through some, let's see here. Let me put a washer on. I'm going to tighten that nut down. And these are just hand tight right now. You can use a wrench to tighten them down more. But I think that's going to stay. Yeah, see, it's not going anywhere right now. So that's what's nice about this entire setup here. There's no drilling. Nothing is permanently mounted. You can easily, unscrew these, take everything off, and move it to a different kayak or just take it off for transport. So that's the nice thing about having the power pole and this plate on the back. So now let's back up a little bit, get the vertical pipe that goes to the back of this that actually holds the Bixpy motor on. All right, so we'll continue this process back here with the vertical pipe. I do not have the Bixpy motor mounted on it yet. But what I'm going to do is just place that pipe on there and get these screwed into the sides. Finally got it in there. All right, so there's one side, and let me get the other. All right. All right, so now that's on there. It's not going anywhere. Of course, right now it's in it's in free spin. You can turn it either way you want. Now with the power pole steer, of course, you're not going to use this locking mechanism here with the pin. And essentially all you're going to do there is, let me get the Allen key that they provide with the kit. I'm going to take one out. All right, let me loosen that up some more. So what you're going to do here is that's actually going to go on one side, and then you're going to put the screw in on the other. And you're going to have to rotate this around just so the locking pin, meets up with that right there. And I'll show that in a second. All right, let me tighten that up. And wherever you want this to be, and you can mount the motor just to find the best option. But you're going to want that hole in that piece to line up with that right there. And that's just the clamp that, kind of adjusts your height. So as long as it lines up with that clamp, you'll see that it's locked in, it's not spinning. Before, you'd have to drill into the side of the pipe and run the risk of actually drilling the cord that, the power cord that goes up the pipe. Of course, you no longer have to do that. This, you just take the pin in and out, and it rotates without any issues. So I'll put that in for now, and you can see how it locks in place. And so like all the other J2 products, or all the J2 motors, you have this new mount, and you've got these 4 screws and these nuts that come with it. So I've already mounted the Bixpy motor to the vertical pipe, and let's see, if we move up just a little bit, you can see these little pieces that Bixpy provides with their kits. Now, I received 3 with my kit, and of course I've got one right here and one right here. And if you need it lower, you can lower the vertical pipe, or you can attach it. If you want one more at the top, you can do that. So I'm going to put the locking pin back in. Just continue going up. Alright, so you can see I have one mounted right up underneath that vertical pin, or this pin here, this locking piece, and of course it's not going anywhere. I did put the Bixpy pole steer on this. You can easily take it off if you want, but everything with this is relatively simple. We've shown in other videos how to add this. All of these just use zip ties to hold everything in place, with the exception of this piece here. That's just a bolt with a locking nut and washer, and that just makes sure that it sandwiches, this aluminum piece here for the pipe, and that's what allows it to steer. So for this unit, I'm going to be testing it on the Moken 12.5 in the power pole, steering configuration, with it being locked using the rudder, and then I'm also going to test it using the power pole mount with the pole steer. I like using the pole steer in the river, and then of course in lakes I like using the rudder system with either locked in this configuration or using the pod mount, the DIY pod mount, and I'll show that in another video. But we're pretty much done for back here, and as you can see, I've already run the pull cord all the way up to the front of my kayak. Bixpy does provide a locking cleat so that you can drill it to the side of your kayak, or do whatever you need to do to run that. I just have my cord run up the side, and I have the pull string going around a ram ball, and as you can see, it's really easy to bring that up and down. And if you see here, there's a spot down at the bottom where the pole locks in place. A lot of times, I know with the older units, they're not going to lock until you're going about, let's say, speed 5, 6, something like that. These are a little stiffer, so it may just take some time, with running it and kind of loosening that up some. But it will lock in place, and it really does a good job. So if you do hit something, it's going to kick up, and you shouldn't have to worry about your Bixpy motor or anything getting damaged.